Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily call. Today, we are going to start the Srimad Bhagavatam series of verses from Canto 1, Chapter 10. So, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining and giving your association to all of us today. I'll share my screen, Guru Maharaj. You can please start. 1 second. So it's departure of Lord Krishna, Satvaraka. Yes.
Yeah. So continuation with the Bhagavatam series we had begun. We diverted because of the auspicious month of Kartik to the 10th canto. Now we're back to the first canto again where we left off before then. So this is from the first canto, 10th chapter, beginning of the chapter. Krishna's departure for Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sonaka Uvacham Advam Sarikha Sprita Attaka Yino Yudhishthiro Dharma Vikram Dharustayaham Sahajnujai Pratyavarudya Bhojana Katham Hatvat Vritam Kim Akar Sasiddhataha. Translation. Candramauli Muni asked, after killing his enemies who desired to usurp his rightful inheritance, how did the greatest of all religious men, Maharaj Yudhisthira, assisted by his brother, rule his subjects? Surely he could not fully enjoy his kingdom with unrestricted consciousness. Purport. Maharaj Yudhisthira was the greatest of all men of religion. Thus, he was not all inclined to fight with his cousins for the sake of enjoying the kingdom. He fought for the right cause because the kingdom of Hastinapur was his rightful inheritance, and his cousins wanted to usurp it for themselves. He fought therefore for the right cause under the guidance of Lord Shri Krishna, but he could not enjoy the results of his victory because his cousins were all killed in the fight. He therefore ruled over the kingdom as a matter of duty, assisted by his younger brothers. The inquiry was important for Shanakarish, who wanted to know about the behavior of Maharaj Yudhisthira when he was at ease to enjoy the kingdom. Gyan Mirandasya Gyanadina Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gangavai Pacharini Nirvise Sunyavadi Pasyat Yadai Satani Panchakalpa through this Shantipa Sindhu Devacha Kapitanam Bhavane Jam Vaishnave Jam Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama. If we will recall, for those who've been following along, Maharaj Yudhisthira could never be peaceful, even though he was victorious in the battle. And of course, that was only due to the presence of Lord Krishna. Still, being a soft-hearted Vaishnava, he realized that his giving of receiving kingdoms was at the expense of the lives of many of his dear ones, particularly his cousin. It's mentioned that this was a family feud. They were, the Pandavas and the Kurus were related by brothers. The older brother, there is Pandu. Pandu was the father of Yudhisthira and Arjuna, actually of all the 5 Pandava brothers, and he was the brother of Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra was born blind, and because he was born blind, he was actually meant to rule the kingdom, but it's not possible to rule a kingdom if one is blind. So Pandu was meant to rule the kingdom, but then Pandu died untimely. And then there was a question, well, since Pandu was meant to rule the kingdom, it was obvious that the Pandavas, his sons, were meant to rule, headed by King Yudhisthira. But Dhritarashtra felt that his sons, headed by Duryodhana, should have the kingdom. And of course, then there was Vidura, who was also the younger brother, who also was actually trying to mitigate this whole tension between these 2 cousin brothers. But he wasn't able to do it because Dhritarashtra wasn't going to give up his sons, and his sons, headed by Duryodhana, was quite avaricious. The Pandavas were willing to give Duryodhana the kingdom as long as they could have some area of the world to rule. But because Duryodhana was so avaricious that even when Krishna came to speak on behalf of the Pandavas, that because they just give them 5 villages to rule, and you can have the rest of the world. And Duryodhana, he said, I wouldn't give them enough land to put a head of a pin on. You wanted everything. So when the word got back, then Krishna could understand that Duryodhana was unworthy to rule because he was so avaricious. And he wasn't actually a devotee, although he was coming from that background. He was more interested in his. Sometimes you see in spiritual circles, people come into devotional service, but their motivation is not the goal of devotional service. Of course, at the beginning, that is fine. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 4 types of people come to me. Those who are materially distressed, those who are in need of some kind of pecuniary gain or some financial fortune, something material. Those who are inquisitive, curious about spiritual life, and those who are actually looking for of life. So it's mentioned you gradually understand that the reasons I get one inside of devotional service, because if one is material distress, many times they take the spiritual life to relieve that distress. If one is material impoverished, many times they take spiritual life to get over their impoverishing. If one is inquisitive, then that is good. That curiosity brings them to devotional service. And if one is actually looking for the goal of devotional service, then they are rightly situated. So one may come for any number of reasons. But once one starts to practice devotional service and starts to become educated in the knowledge of transcendence, one starts to understand that the goal of devotional service is to free oneself from the cycle of birth and death, or come to the platform of liberation, or ultimately, the highest, of course, is to develop pure love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But sometimes we see people who come for the wrong reason, stay for the wrong reasons, and then they make spiritual life their business. They want to make a livelihood out of spiritual life, and sometimes they fight their way in for position, prestige, power, and control. And some of them may even perform spiritual austerities in order to get some type of material gain into spiritual life. And then they have a tendency to exploit these things. Prabhupada called these people Kali Chela. Kali means this age of Kali, the dark age of destruction. And Chela means follower, or shiksha, or disciple. They come to spiritual life and they are disciples of Kali. And they're not here for spiritual gain. They're here for material profit, because they see spiritual life as a good way to make a livelihood. And they also exploit the resources that come into the spiritual society, and sometimes even work to change some of the principles that govern spiritual life as created by Srila Prabhupada. You find that in every movement these people exist. The history of Christianity is fraught with this. And so, of course, some of them are hard to recognize. But we can see sometimes when people become avaricious for material profits, and then it becomes obvious that they are ill-motivated, and therefore they should not be trusted. So, of course, the devotees have a tendency to trust everyone, and that's the nature of a devotee. But then again, one has to be careful that such people don't take power. When they do take power, they can cause havoc within the society. So here we had Duryodhana, and Duryodhana came from a pious family. His father was Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra was let's see, Dhritarashtra's father was Vyasadeva. Yeah, so Vyasadeva created 3 children. Pandu. Well, that's a nice story. How there needed to be some heir to the throne, and so there was these. I forgot her name. Ambika, I'm not sure. And she was a princess And so in order to create spiritual progeny, they asked Vyasadeva to have union with this princess in order to bring about a Rajarsi, a king who has spiritual qualities. They're called Rajarishis. And when Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva is not known for being so good looking. In fact, he was to use a very straight word, he was quite ferocious looking, not ferocious, but quite ugly, although he was a great sage. He's the one that, wrote the Bible to me. So when he first had union with this one girl, when she saw him, she became so pale and bright, seeing this person who was going to have union with her, that the child was Pandu. And Pandu was pale in complexion. He had a very pale complexion, like a whitish complexion. And so I can't remember the details, but then again, Vyasadeva was set again for union for her. And this time, because he was so ugly, the queen, she covered her face with a cloth not to see him during the union. And Dhritarashtra was born, therefore he was born blind. And when the third time came up, the queen decided, I'm going to send my maidservant in my place, and then Vyasadeva had union with the maidservant, and Vidura was born. And the Vidura maidservant was a Sudra. So Vidura was born as a Sudra mother. And he became the younger brother of Dhritarashtra, and Pandava had died. So now you have this question of who's going to rule the throne, and the Pandavas were the rightly heir because Pandu was the one that was supposed to get the throne. But because he had died, Yudhisthira, the older brother, was meant to get the throne. But Dhritarashtra said, well, my son should get the throne because I should have had the kingdom, but because I was blind, I couldn't have it. Therefore, my son, headed by Duryodhana, should have the kingdom. So that was the basis of the war. And so they fought. And Krishna could understand that the sons of Dhritarashtra were avaricious, and they weren't inclined to religious principles. But the Pandavas were righteous, and the Arjuna, of course, was a great devotee of Krishna, and so was Yudhisthira. Bhim also, Nakula and Sahadev. So that was the reason for the war, and therefore Yudhisthira, although the Pandavas, because of the presence of Krishna, won the war. And if you study the Mahabharata, you'll find it's a very interesting history, because it includes in that section Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita. Vyasadeva put the Bhagavad Gita inside of the Mahabharata because Mahabharata is generally read by people who are outside of the Varnashram system. In other words, Sudras and others who like stories. And in order to get them to read or hear the Bhagavad Gita, he put the Bhagavad Gita inside of the Mahabharata. So people would read the Bhagavad Gita or hear the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna. And of course, that was part of the battle when Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna after Arjuna didn't want to fight because he felt that on the opposite side, there were his friends, relatives, martial gurus, teachers, people he grew up with, people he loved. And he gave so many reasons why he couldn't fight. And of course, that began the whole Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna defeated all his reasons. And he said, Asocham andra socham sva, pratyabharam shabasase, gatasums akutasums cha, nanu sochanti panditaha. He called him a pundit, not a pundit, but one who is ignorant. Krishna really smashed him at the beginning when Arjuna came up with so many reasons why he shouldn't fight. Well, if we fight, then how can we enjoy the kingdom at the expense of people we love? If we fight, then our elders who are our seniors, they will no longer be present in society to guide society. And of course, they are very dear to us. So he came up, and then of course, the main reason is that if the men are killed, the women are unprotected, and if the women are unprotected, they're exploited by unscrupulous men. And then you have Varna Sankara, or unwanted population, and when the society gets filled with unwanted population, there is hell in society. And that's what's happening today in our society, that we have a large group of unwanted population because people don't follow rules and regulations for procreation. They procreate whenever they want, whoever they want. And therefore, there is a whole class of people called Varna Sanskara. And you can see, those of us who grew up in the United States, we're hearing the reports, many of these young children, they come into their schools with machine guns and automatic rifles and shoot up their classmates and the teachers. The kids nowadays are just vicious, they're wild. They take the drugs, sex, and all this, and that's just due to unwanted population. Because if people don't follow the rules and regulations for proper procreation, then these beings come from lower planets and take birth in these families. And then the Earth planet becomes overburdened with more sinful activities. And then the Earth planet is supposed to have a balance of piety and impiety, but now you can see impiety is ruling over piety in large volume. And that is because of unwanted population. People don't follow any rules and regulations. They do whatever they want, whenever they want. And that is the nature of Kali Yuga. People live like animals. Although they have 2 legs and 2 arms, they're no better than animals because they don't follow any rules and regulations. They do whatever, they eat whenever they want, they have sex whenever they want, they sleep whenever they want, they eat whenever. In other words, it's more like animal society. But actually, it's even lower than animal society, and as Srila Prabhupada has pointed out, because the animals work according to the arrangement given to them by nature, where human beings have their free will, and therefore they exploit, and they can give up their natural tendencies for proper livelihood and act any way they want. And therefore you have a whole hellish society. And you'll see, this is what's going to come up in this chapter. You'll hear more about this as the verses go on. So Yudhisthira, so Krishna told Arjuna, although you're giving me good reasons for not fighting, I have to say you are a pundit. You're not very intelligent because you're lamenting for that which is not lamentable. In other words, you're lamenting for the body. So when Krishna came, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharatama bhutanam adharmasya tadatmaham sujami aham pavitranayam sarunam vinasanaya chaduskritam Dharma samstarpanatayam sambhavami yuge yuge. These verses from the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita explain why Krishna descends into this material world. And in this case is to rid the world of irreligion and reestablish religious principles. And so Krishna came to do that. And Arjuna, he said, Arjuna, you are my instrument for bringing about Dharma. Therefore, I'm asking you to fight on behalf of religious principles, fight according to my direction. Arjuna couldn't do that at the beginning because he was on the bodily platform. But the whole basis of the Bhagavad Gita, at least in this interchange between Krishna and Arjuna, is to teach us, the conditioned souls in the material world, that we think we know what is best for us, but we actually don't know. Therefore, we are always making mistakes. We're always doing the wrong things. We're always getting in trouble. Why? Because we don't know how we should act in each and every situation. Therefore, one has to come to hear from a spiritual master. And just like Arjuna, at the beginning, Arjuna was giving his own reasons why he shouldn't fight. Krishna was listening. And after he said, "Are you done?" And Arjuna remained silent. Then Krishna said, "Now you listen." He said, "Yeah, you're speaking nice words, but I must say you are a fool because you're lamenting for what is not lamentable." And so Arjuna, when he came to his senses, he finally said, "Now I'm a soul surrender unto you. Please instruct me." So this is the beginning of spiritual life. And this happens at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna makes that statement. After exhausting all of his reasons for not fighting, and then realizing that Krishna was there, he said, "All right, no more friendly talks." Krishna said, "No more friendly talks. Now we have to get into the proper relationship." So Krishna took the role of a spiritual master, and Arjuna took the role of a disciple. And that is the basis of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So we accept that same position as Arjuna did in order for us to progress in spiritual life. Otherwise, if we don't very carefully adhere to the instructions of Krishna, which are coming through the disciplic succession in our spiritual master, we'll be lost. Even though we may be so intelligent by material standards, still that is not the qualification for making spiritual advancement. Qualification is submissive. Tadviri pratipatena paripasyena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. These are the qualifications for spiritual advancement. 1, approach a bona fide spiritual master. 2, ask questions. And 3, in a humble state, not challenging questions. And 3, be ready to render service whenever one is required to. So these 3 things: approach, paripastena, pariprashyena, and sevaya. Paripatena means to fall flat, humble. Pariprashyena means to inquire, and sevaya means to be ready to offer devotional service. So when one approaches the spiritual master, then the door to spiritual life becomes open. And as one follows the instructions, so the whole treatise based on the Bhagavad Gita comes in that context, where Arjuna is asking questions and Krishna is responding to the questions. And they go through all of the sciences of spirituality. Krishna speaks about karma yoga. He speaks about Raja Yoga. He speaks about Astanga Yoga. He speaks about Jnana Yoga. And of course, he speaks about Bhakti Yoga. And he concludes the whole Bhagavad Gita saying, Sarva Dharma Pariksha Jam Mamekam Saranam Daja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayashyami Masichaha. I've told you everything now. So if you want to go any further, now you have to give up all of your own ideas and hear from me further, as I guide you in the process of devotional service. So Krishna, in the role of the guru, he speaks the Bhagavad Gita. And so the whole Bhagavad Gita is centered around that. So Yudhisthira, he's now ready to take the throne. And of course, he's still, as it says here, the sages headed by Shaunaka-Rishi. Shaunaka-Rishi was the head of the sages at Namisaranya. So he's narrating this episode. And he's inquiring from Sutta Goswami what is the situation with Maharaj Yudhisthira, because now he has the kingdom. He wants to know if he is peaceful enough in order to get further instructions on how to rule the kingdom. And so we see, and so the whole battle of Kurukshetra and all of the intrigue connected with him centers around the whole process of guru-disciple relationship. There was one devotee, he was one of the first devotees who joined our movement, and he had a dream one night. And then the next day he met Srila Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, last night I had a dream, and in the dream, I saw Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot. Krishna was speaking to Arjuna, and then all of a sudden, Krishna turned into you, and I turned into Arjuna turned into me. And Prabhupada said, very good, now you've understood everything. Yeah, so that is the role. So Bhagavad Gita is the instructions for executing devotional service as given by the Supreme Lord himself and taught by the representative of the Supreme Lord, the spiritual master. It's a subtle science. It's something that cannot be understood simply by intellectualism. It has to be understood only by sevaya, because we see many people who study spiritual books, topics, who are not devotees. They're academicians or they're scholars. They study it from that point of view. They can't really they can't enter into the mysteries of Bhagavad Gita or the words of Krishna. Why? Because they don't do any seva. As soon as you engage in devotional service, then the knowledge you receive becomes realized. If you don't do any service and you're just reading, you'll get some intellectualism, but you won't be able to enter into the understanding of devotional service. And that only comes when we actually submit to becoming controlled by the spiritual master by engaging in practical devotional service. And that begins by chanting our rounds, following the principles associated with devotees, taking only food offered to Krishna or Krishna prasadam, and understanding our position by reading and hearing transcendental knowledge as given by Krishna and by the spiritual man. So it's a great science. So here, Shaunaka-Rishi wanted to know about the behavior of Maharaj Yudhisthira when he was at ease to enjoy the kingdom. Now everything is over, the kingdom is his, but still, he's still feeling somewhat uneasy because although he heard from Bhishma Dev, that's where we left off prior to the month of Kartik, and Bhishma Dev gave him all of the instructions he needed to rule the kingdom. Still, his mind was not completely peaceful, although by hearing from Bhishma Dev, within the presence of Krishna, he got to the point of accepting the kingdom. He didn't even want the kingdom until actually Bhishma Dev was empowered by Krishna to speak to Yudhisthira to give him the understanding that it's his responsibility to take the position of the emperor of the world. So we can appreciate Yudhisthira's soft-heartedness and his uneasiness by achieving the kingdom at the expense of the lives of others. But it was Krishna's will. Because it was Krishna's will, it was righteous. Krishna is the standard of morality. Morality nowadays is being redressed according to people's ideas and feelings. And as society changes, it becomes more, what we say, impersonal through technology and industrialization. And you'll see that as we describe further in this particular chapter. Then people become more and more inclined to redefine what is actually morality, civility, and righteousness. And it comes in the form of exploitation. But Krishna is the standard of morality. He gives the standard of morality, but here he's changing morality, and he's telling you have to fight, and you have to win, and you have to take the throne. This is my will. So whatever Krishna wants, that is the topmost form of righteousness, no matter what form it takes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. And thank you for reminding us due to by devotional service, we'll be able to serve the spiritual master and also ask questions humbly, and also we can understand Bhagavad Gita, the instructions of the Lord through devotional service. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments or realizations, you can please go ahead and please turn on your cameras if possible. That would be very nice. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, dear Gurudev. Thank you very much for this wonderful lecture. Hare Guru.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Yeah, Guru Maharaj, while others are thinking, I was just thinking like even Yudhishthir had these dilemmas before fighting in the Kurukshetra war, just like how Arjuna has. But so he didn't listen to the Bhagavad Gita, right, Guru Maharaj? While Krishna was speaking, that's why he's having this type of uneasiness, even though he got the kingdom.
But Yudhishthir didn't do much fighting, although he did a little fighting, not much. You don't hear any parts of the narration of Yudhishthir engaging in, warfare like Arjuna or even Bhima. Both of them were fighting quite ferociously, but Yudhishthir hardly. But he did engage in some fight, but now you don't hear much about that. Yeah. And Krishna didn't push him because he had Arjuna. Krishna focused on Arjuna to be the force to bring about Dharma. Because Arjuna was the best of all warriors, at least on the Pandava side.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Scarlett Mataji, you have any question? Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to your holiness, Candramauli, and all glories to your all devotees. Is it correct to understand that we also have some kind of war, like it was for Arjuna, that we have our own war now in this situation, that we have to fight our condition, that we can't finish to eat certain food or drink or go out and have fun. Is it correct to understand when we have to fight this, is it some kind of war this also, or is it wrong to think this way?
No, it's actually correct, because yeah, and sometimes we use analogies to describe the whole battlefield of Kurukshetra as our own fighting with our lower nature. Our higher nature wants Krishna, our lower nature wants to enjoy this material world. And so there's two natures that are constantly in battle. Therefore, Krishna comes in the form of intelligence. So intelligence manifests as Krishna. The mind manifests as Duryodhana, like that. So the mind cannot be trusted, but the intelligence, when it's connected with the higher knowledge given in the scriptures, becomes the ruling force by which one becomes victorious over the lower nature. So that lower nature is always there. Sometimes it's prominent, sometimes it remains dormant. So that tendency to want to enjoy the senses in the material way many times rises up, and that's the battle we have to fight. And therefore Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita. One has to control the senses by the mind and fix the mind on Krishna by using the intelligence. So yeah, sometimes we use that as the Bhagavad Gita is seen as an analogy, and there are many philosophers who mistakenly think that the whole Bhagavad Gita never really happened. It's simply an analogy between the soul struggling with the body to rise above the body and attain perfection. That is true, but the actual battle of Kurukshetra actually happened and Krishna was personally present. So Krishna can do that. He can take something, that is actually historically happening, and we can, because life, if you understand everything, then anything in life there's messages every minute that we can learn from, which will help us become more Krishna conscious. Yeah. But if we reject higher knowledge or Krishna's words and the spiritual master's guidance, then we are subjected to our lower nature.
Can I ask the next question?
Did you get that one?
Yes, I did. Is it wrong for me to chant together with Prabhupada's? There are so many Prabhupada's videos, YouTubes where he's chanting, and I try to have it together with him. Is it wrong? Or should I chant loudly, but I do it together with him? Is it wrong?
That's okay, as long as it's not your prescribed japa. That you can't do. Your japa means you have to do that in a meditative way between you and Krishna in the holy name. But outside of that, yeah, if it's not your regular japa, then you can do that. Fine. But you can't use Prabhupada's chanting and chant along with him and count that as your japa. It's not allowed. Namrata.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees. Guru Maharaj, what is intuition? What is intuition? How do we understand that? If in a situation we have everything, logically, if we are understanding everything logically, but still our intuition is telling us something different, and we tend to go in that way. What is that intuition?
Well, intuition in its pure form is Krishna in the heart. Because spiritual knowledge is intuitive. But then you have to recognize, is that intuition or is it just the voice of the false ego? But it's your inner guide, it's your protective force. Intuition. We usually give it a benign definition. In other words, it's beneficial. Just like you might have a plan to go out and then you feel, I shouldn't go out. I just don't feel like it's going to be. So there's this feeling inside which comes on quite strongly that something wrong is going to happen if I go out. That happens a lot too. Even devotees pick up on that. Just like one person was telling me just the other day, where can't remember the details, but he was about to go out and do something. His wife said, "Don't go. It's inauspicious. It's not going to be good for you." And he didn't listen to his wife, and he had a catastrophe and wound up in a hospital. So yeah, Bali, when he was fighting with Sugriva, his wife Tara, she told him, "You already defeated him, and he's coming back again to fight with you. This is not good. If you go out again, you will not be. Then you will not. It'll be inauspicious for you." He didn't listen, and he went out and he got killed. There are signs in nature also that are, sometimes they say if you get quivering in your left arm, or if your lower lip starts quivering, there is, these are different omens. These are parts of nature where certain things kind of tell you ahead of time that something inauspicious is about to happen. And it's a way of protecting you from going in that direction. If we're not aware of these things, then, but therefore, if we always remember Krishna and practice remembering Krishna, then Krishna will always protect us and guide us to do the right thing. If we forget Krishna, then many times we're left to our own discrimination. And then Krishna may somehow or other come in the form of intuition within the heart to remind us. A lot of times, other times, it may not be Krishna, it might just be the voice of the false ego in the heart. So then again, you become a little bit, you don't know, is it my good nature that's coming? Is it Krishna, or is it actually something material? But generally, sometimes you get a strong feeling that this is right or this is not right. And you can't rationalize that feeling by what's happening around you. All you can do is you have that feeling it's not right. Just like sometimes you meet a person and you think, I can't trust that person. I just know that person is not trustworthy. You kind of feel like it just by being in that person's presence. Or you might feel the opposite. So these intuitive feelings or messages many times are coming from Supersoul. Because spiritual knowledge is intuitive.
Guru Maharaj, how can we differentiate between that if the message is coming from the false ego or mind from super soul?
You have to use your discrimination, and if you can't figure it out, then you start asking somebody. But you know, sometimes you just have to use your own intelligence to discriminate whether I should go ahead or not. But prayer is very helpful when you get in these dilemmas. Like today, I was supposed to go to hospital this morning for a routine checkup. So as soon as I got on my beads, I chanted a few mantras, and the voice came, postpone it. And I was thinking, it's too soon to really decide. I kept chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting. And later on, I thought about it again. And then it became a little bit different. As I got to the point of being in a dilemma, I wasn't sure whether to postpone it or go ahead with it. Then I kept chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting, and then it became clear, don't postpone it, just postpone the time that you were going to go. I changed my time and did things prior to going that I needed to do in order to go and take care of business at the hospital. So that's how my mind played it out this morning. So I was waiting for the right answer, and then Krishna showed me, you should go, but there's things that you haven't planned to do before you go that's going to make the difference by going. But get that done first. And so I did. And then I felt, yes, it was right to go. But initially, Krishna created this question, don't go. But then I needed more time to think about it. So yeah, so you have to, sometimes you can't make a decision right away. You just keep chanting, you keep praying, and you see. Sometimes it's not one way or the other. It's some adjustment that needs to be made. Something needs to be added. Something needs to be taken away. So life is like that.
Yes,
First,
Guru Maharaj.
first I thought it was black and white, but it wasn't black and white. It was gray. And sometimes it's like, so prayer, chanting the holy name, that will help to clarify things.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I think this helps a lot. Thank you very much. Hare
Mhm.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Even I had a similar type of question what Namrata Mataji asked just now. So we are, you said that we don't know what we think, we don't know what we want. We have to always depend on Krishna. So, but sometimes, yeah, we get some mixed thoughts, like whether we have to do this or that, or whether I'm fitting in this thing or not. So lot of dilemmas go in our minds, Guru Maharaj. So definitely, I think we have to seek help from seniors to discuss.
Yeah, use the intelligence, use resources, pray to Krishna,
Yeah.
and be careful of spontaneous reactions.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, that's true. Yeah, spontaneous reactions lead you in different direction, which is not appreciated by everyone. So.
And you might wind up somewhere you don't want to be.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, thank you. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Yeah, Scarlett Mataji, you have one more.
When I read about the situation with Bhishma and Kurukshetra, I have learned in that tradition that it's very, very important to respect the elders and do everything the elders says. The elders is like a guru. And how come the elders didn't interfere to say, no, don't do it, you cannot be, it's right for Yudhishthira and his brother to take it, you have no right to take it, and so on and so on. How come the elder, like the grandfather?
They did. Well, the elders did that. Many of them do. They warned Duryodhana that was a mistake. Krishna even went to Duryodhana directly and told him, you know, but he wasn't prepared to listen. Either his father, Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was attached to his kids who wanted to usurp the kingdom, and Duryodhana was attached to usurping the kingdom. They couldn't hear from others. They were warned. Look at the battle of Lanka when Ravana he took Sita. He got so much advice from so many different persons to give Sita back. It was going to be his downfall if he didn't. He didn't listen. Why? Because he was overwhelmed with lusty desires. Lust blocks intelligence. Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita. It is lust and lust only comes in contact with the material modes of passion, and it transforms into wrath, which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So when one is covered by lust, one cannot hear anything. All they can see is to fulfill their lusty desires. And that was the case with Duryodhana. He wanted material power. He wanted to be the ruler of the world. He wasn't meant to be. You see that in today's modern politics, you know? Everyone is fighting with everyone else to get the position, and nobody's qualified. Dayato Visayam Pumsan San Dayato Visayam Pumsan Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kama Kroda Vijayate Kroda Bhavati Samohan Samohan Vipi Vipama Vipi Vitivaso Buddhinasa Panashati. Go to Bhagavad Gita 262.
Yes, Ganesh.
And then you can understand the answer to your question. This is good for all of us. We should know these two verses, 262 and 263. It's the reason why wrong decisions are always made, because of wrong desire. Dhyayato visayam pumsan sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kroda vijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger arises. Next verse. Kroda bhavati samoham samohat shriti brahmaha shriti brahmsa burinaso punashati. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. When intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So intelligence keeps us fixed on the spiritual path. But when lust comes, lust bewilders the mind, and when it's unfulfilled, it creates anger and then causes delusion. Delusion causes loss of memory. When memory is lost, intelligence is gone also. And when intelligence is lost, one is back down in the material modes again. Study these two verses and purports, and you can understand. Don't allow your mind to meditate on sense objects. As soon as you meditate on sense objects, you start this whole process, which these verses explain. Meditate on Krishna. Meditate on devotional activities. Meditate on things that are not about fulfilling your own desires. As soon as you meditate on, if you're hungry, you start meditating on food, and your hunger only increases. And after a while, all you can think about is eating. Even if something else is there in front of you, it doesn't have any importance. So that the mind will focus on a sense object, and as soon as you do, that sense object causes you to become attached to that object. And that's when lust starts to develop. Lust is not just sexual. Lust is desire for material gain. That means in a form of money, power, position. This is all part of the lusty nature of the living entity. You see, the whole world is based on lust today. Everything. The whole world is simply focusing on getting more and more sense gratification. That's all. It's all about increasing lust. Advertisement just increases people's lusty desires. That's what it's meant. For people who spend money to buy things they don't need. So the whole society perpetuates people's lusty desires in order to develop this economic profit. And everyone is victimized and no one's satisfied because material things cannot satisfy. When people are unsatisfied, it's like if you took some wrong medicine and you got a little sick from that, you're trying to neutralize it. So you pick up another bottle of medicine that's also wrong to neutralize the wrong medicine, and you become even sicker. That's material life. People are suffering from lusty desires, and they try to fulfill that lust by another sense object, and it just increases the lust. That's all. And when it keeps increasing, people actually become neurotic, violent, suicidal, and self-absorbed. Just think of Krishna. That's the formula. Think of Krishna, think how to serve Krishna, make plans how to serve Krishna. Even if you're not serving Krishna, make plans how to serve him. Make plans to chant, make plans to go on pilgrimage to holy places. Make plans to serve your deities. Planning in devotional service is nice because it focuses the mind on increasing our service, which means increasing our Krishna consciousness. So you have a choice what to think about.
Is it fair to think that Vidura didn't participate in the war, but Bhishma did? So is it fair to think that Bhishma was more wanted to taste something, but not Vidura?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Because Vidura didn't participate in the war, but
Right.
Bhishma did. And even though Bhishma many times knew that it's Krishna and Krishna's power, everything about Krishna, he knew. Still, he participated in the war, but Vidura didn't do. So is it fair to think that Bhishma lacks the taste of doing it just because
No,
the
No.
ego?
no, don't speculate on that one.
No. I don't want. I just want to know what is it.
Yeah, well, okay. There's two answers to that, and which is the whole life of Bhishma is based on these two answers. First of all, the material answer, or the one that's the most obvious, is that Duryodhana was very cunning, and he had this ability to attract people to his side by offering them various types of boons. So he offered Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev was a Kshatriya. He had no position anywhere. And so Duryodhana gave him commanding-in-chief of the armies, and at the same time, he took care of him on a material level. He provided everything Bhishma needed. So Bhishma felt indebted to Duryodhana for that. But that was the external reason. But that's the one that we see. That he did the same thing with who else? With Karna. He also may offer so many boons to Karna if Karna would fight against the Pandavas. So Duryodhana was a very slick politician. He even tried to trick Krishna, but it didn't work. Krishna could see through the whole thing. But the hidden reason, or the spiritual reason why Bhishma apparently fought on the side against the Pandavas, against Krishna, was that he wanted to show the world that no matter how powerful you are, if you're against God, you lose. Because nobody could kill Bhishma. Bhishma was invincible. Arjuna was no match for Bhishma. He was the topmost fighter on the whole battlefield, and at the same time, he also had a boon that he could die only when he wanted to. But he wanted to show the world that if you're against God, you lose. The Lord always comes out victorious. He never loses. Sometimes apparently he seems to be in the background, but that's just an apparent. As time goes on, Krishna's will pervades. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my name will be chanted in every town and village around the world. That is the golden age. So that's coming. Lord Chaitanya's golden age is coming. And if you knew what was going on in the world, you would be able to see how Lord Chaitanya is working through so many different agencies and different paths in order to bring his movement into the world. Not interfering with the independence of the living entity, which he doesn't do. He works accordingly, using his devotees and other means to bring about his will. That's why that verse, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya, he comes to reestablish religion and to remove irreligion. He does it directly or he does it indirectly. Indirectly means he doesn't come in a personal form, but he comes in another form. So in this age, he's come in the form of his name. So his name is his incarnation in this age, and this is his name. The chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Harinam Sankirtan, is the power to purify the whole world. Simply chanting the holy names all around the world is actually purifying the world slowly. But if more and more devotees get involved, then fast, this world will become purified. His holy name is Krishna himself. There's no difference. Anyone who says there's a difference between the holy name and Krishna is seeing materially. There's no difference. So again, the answer is Bhishma Dev wanted to show the world, you're against God, you lose. Bhishma Dev is a devotee. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. Is there okay, or you have any clarification further? Okay.
Srimati, it seems like we're getting less numbers ever since the time change came, right? The numbers have decreased quite significantly. Today we only had 14, not even 14. We had 13. 13 yesterday was very small also. So devotees are not coming on anymore.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I don't know the exact reason, but I'll try to advertise more, and we are sending reminders for the classes, but
Yeah, because when people come, I'm encouraged to come and give the class, and I want to give the class every day. But if people are not so interested, and that leaves me thinking, well, maybe I can use my time preaching somewhere else. So yeah, devotees should be. It's only 1 hour a day. Not hard.
yes, Guru Maharaj.
But
Okay.
people put their material life ahead of spiritual life. They always do that. That's just the nature of the conditioned soul. Spiritual life is good if you can fit it in. But if you can't fit it in, then put it where you can fit it in. If we don't make our hearing and chanting foremost, we will never be able to understand this process of devotional service. But people are so busy, they got their families, they got their jobs, they got so many other things related with these two categories.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, I'll post in the groups again the reminders of the classes, Guru Maharaj. Let's see.
Yeah, maybe when December comes, it'll be colder and people have less to do.
Yeah, but that is a holiday season, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, but every day is a holiday. We call it a holy day. Not a holiday, a holy day.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe if you can use your influence and throw some torpedoes out there.
Sure, Guru Maharaj, I'll try.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for
Thank
your
you very much for today, Guru Maharaj. Please don't punish us, please. Please don't give up us, please. We really need you. Please don't give up us.
No, I'm not giving up, but you know,
Thank you.
I would like to. They're giving up. No, I'm
Maharaj is very merciful. He'll not give up on us. He'll
Thank
talk.
you.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Thank you, devotees, for participating in the discussion. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Guru Maharaj, tomorrow's class, I just want to announce. Okay, Guru Maharaj left. Tomorrow